Hello, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. We will not be having a face cam today because guess what? I am sick again. But the show must go on. I think it's just because that's what you do after like a big convention, you know? You just get sick. But I hope everyone else is doing well. Everyone is having a great time. Hope you get better soon. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. Got some new stuff on the screen. Some beautiful works that were finished by the community today. Like this week, rather. Beautiful work from Harley. Which I think we're actually going to be looking at Harley's work today, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. These are in random order, though. Oh, there's a new one. Helena, finishing her piece as well. I like the adjustments that Helena did, like in the last adjustments, like in the last feedback session in this. Also, especially increasing like the purple in the background came out really nice. Then we're back to Daniel again. Is this all that it's going to show? So I have the feeling that it's not showing everything. Oh, I set it to randomize playback. Never mind. My bad. For some reason, the Discord event just completely shit itself. So I don't know what happened there. But that's something I'll have to have a look at afterwards as well. Oh, I see. Okay. We're gonna get started in just a minute. Yeah, I hope everyone is doing well. How are you doing, Daniel? Hey, Adam. How's it going? It's going. Yeah, I hope you're feeling better, buddy. Don't know what's happening with you, but yeah. I mean, honestly, it's not as bad as last time. I feel like it's already getting better on my end. Just a little bit of a stuffy nose. Talk about it tomorrow. Okay, sounds good. A little bit of a stuffy nose over here and sore throat. Not a sore throat, but just like, yeah. Hello, Marek. Welcome, welcome. I think time that we're switching on up. Other than that, on the stuffy nose side, it's on the better side. That's good. That is good to hear. Hello, Helena. You're all in your secret channel again, huh? Yeah. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear you stopping by to say thank you. Honestly, congratulations with finishing the piece as well. It looks beautiful. So, well done. Well done indeed. Hello, Anton. Oh, look, you're on the screen as well. Welcome, welcome. Okay, we're gonna switch it on up here. As you can see, no face cam for today. A little bit sick. I've got like the Gamescom flu, which is pretty normal if you surround yourself by like, I don't know, 100,000 people, you know. Hello, Amy. Welcome, welcome. Okay. Let's see. Hey, Vaka. I think a couple of new names here. How are you both doing? Happy to see you here. Hope you're both doing well. We're gonna get started in a little bit. We're gonna have a look at 4 portfolios today. Got Harley Gresham, Alexander Blaney, Dehne, and then Sophie. Oh my god, I did this to myself. Sophie Desault? Oh my god, my French R came in, but then also didn't came in at the same time, so sorry about that. Hi, Irfan. Oh, I'm so sorry, Amy. I cannot read that. I could just read like muy bien. So, I guess you like it. Hello, hello, Dinant. Okay, so we might as well get started. If you have any questions during the stream, like if anything that I'm saying is like mysterious or doesn't make sense, or if you just want to ask questions about how to get in the games industry, how you can improve your work, like all that kind of stuff, feel free to ask in the chat, and then we can elaborate on that in between the portfolios, right? But feel free to ask the questions, and then we go back once I have like a little bit of time in between. A good friend of mine sent the link, and I streamed. Oh, thank you so much for sending the link as well. That's awesome. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, we got Harley Gresham over here. Let me actually hide the chat for a little bit. Or can we scoot it over, maybe? Oh no, now all the messages are gone. Damn it! Well, I guess I did this to myself. There's not a good place to put it, really. Whatever, we'll just keep it there. Harley Gresham, senior environment artist at Infinity Factor. Okay, cool. Senior environment artist, living in Japan since 2015. That is awesome. Senior environment artist. Okay, so the question here from my side already is because if you're a senior environment artist like myself, what is the goal of this, right? And this is more a question that we're not going to be able to answer here. But what are you trying to get out of the review? Right? Oh, hold up. I need to actually read into the context of it. Because people do put a little bit of context on the portfolio review on our Discord channel as well. So let's have a look. Okay, here's the context. Never mind. Senior environment artist at Infinity Factor and have about 4.5 years of industry experience. I'm currently trying to change companies and get a job as an environment artist on something more stylized. Probably in the mobile space, though AAA would be dope too. Okay. Okay. So we can kind of scratch this off the board. That just makes me think, like, what is there stylized in the AAA space currently? Right? Like, I know that Ubisoft does some like smaller projects that could be considered like AAA. I don't know where projects like damn it, forgot the name. Something wild. Ah, damn it, it's on the tip of my tongue. One that's really stylized. And just recently they had like a whole thing going on with like the publisher dropping out, and then they decided to make the game offline, and they're like completely redoing the game. Damn it, I can't think of the game. Never mind. But there are games out there, but I feel like the pie of that is so small, right? So that kind of restricts where you're gonna ending up to. But like keeping your eyes open to the mobile space as well is a good idea. Oh, okay, I see now. Because the link that you added was for a job at Neon Koi. Let's have a look. But obviously that's no longer open. But what did they do? Make a splash. Okay. I worked with this guy. Okay, interesting. Okay, they're in Germany, in Berlin. Let's see, jobs. What do they do? Okay, so they haven't done anything just yet, by the sounds of it. Wayfinder, that's the one. Thanks, Tobias. Facundo, we're watching it with the whole 3D team. That is awesome. Glad to have so many people watching. I appreciate it. So no current games that we can like kind of base it on, right? Because Hardy's kind of looking into like this specific job that looked pretty interesting, but obviously the job is taken down. But I think my portfolio is missing the finished stylized environments that I can show I can do the work. I would love to have some feedback. Okay, cool. So I guess that's where this one came from, right? So because this one is really new And obviously by the time of posting, I don't even think you had this one on your portfolio yet. So this makes a huge difference because this one looks really nice. So that's definitely gonna up your intrigue when it comes to applying for jobs, right? This is definitely gonna be increasing your chances. Let's have a look. I think we actually had a look at some of the older work as well at some point. So let's see if we can keep it more focused on the actual things that you're trying to achieve, right? So if you want to go into like the stylized space, then I would honestly, first of all, focus on all the things. Zoom out a little bit here. Focus on all the things that are not directly linked to your goal, right? I know this is kind of a different way of doing a portfolio review, but in your case, because you have such a direct goal, is your work needs to align with that goal 100% of the time, right? So if you have stuff that is not aligned with it, or maybe unfinished or anything like that, try to cut that out of the list, right? So for example, something like this, which is more to indicate that you've done a job, right? I would honestly make a little folder here called professional work, and then cut that out of your portfolio unless people want to see your professional work too, right? So what I'm trying to do with that is I'm trying to make it distinguish, like I'm trying to distinguish like what you want to do and what you have done before, right? So we're focusing now on where you want to go, not where you are currently. So with that said, this can already kind of be moved to that little folder over here. And then we just have to look at what else it is that you want to focus on, right? Because we got a material here, we got an environment here, got another environment. This is more 2D. So does that fit in the list? And then we got obviously the latest piece here. And then these are more prop related challenges, right? But I honestly feel like the more we go down this list, the more it starts to feel like really random and chaotic. So I feel, for example, when it comes to this guy, this guy, this guy, these are all like challenges. I don't really feel that they necessarily need to be on your main page of your portfolio again. So again, where I would put them, I would collect them and put them in challenges or something like that, or like smaller projects or whatever you want to name it, right? The main reason for that is again, we want to show people where you want to go, right? We want to show them like, hey, this is my goal, like loud and clear. But then we also want to just hit them with like the best that we can bring to the table, right? And just by looking at the thumbnails right now, I know that I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but just looking at these thumbnails, I feel like either they're going to be outdated or they're going to be unfinished. Unfinished as in like, for example, these sculpts, right? They're not taken through like the whole pipeline because that's not the point of the challenge. But that also means that they no longer serve the same purpose as you're trying to go for when it comes to your main portfolio. So what I would do with that is I would just, again, move into like a different folder and say like, hey, these are like challenges or smaller projects or something like that, right? Because if you send me this link and this is like your main ArtStation profile, I want to see the best of the best, and I want to see you curate what you think is the best of the best that you can bring, right? Because if you bring everything to the table, I'm already going to be like, okay, this is kind of weird that he's just putting like random sculpting challenges and like challenges that are probably like, I don't know, 5 years old now on there. I don't know. Feels a little bit out of date. And you kind of don't want to give anyone that's going to be looking at your portfolio that opportunity to break you down on like things like that, right? So let's have a look. I was interested in this one because I kind of know the person that is doing the mentorship. Well, I don't know her personally, but I've seen her work over the years, right? Very recognizable piece as well. So I assumed that it was from a mentorship. But yeah, also this in here, this is something that I would also not encourage you to put on your portfolio, where you say like, oh, I kind of got part way through it, but then I kind of dropped it and it's something that I still want to come back to. That just hints to me that this is unfinished. Then why does it need to be on your portfolio, right? Again, we're trying to minimize the amount of like like damage that it can do to your hit points, you know, like if we're going with like a game analogy here. So I would say don't mention anything like that and make sure that the final result looks like it's finished, or don't put it on your portfolio at all. You just want to put your best on there. Anything else, you need to continue working on it, or just don't put it on there at all. There is a cool thing about it though, like in terms of that you can do 2D. But I would definitely make sure that it looks like it's finished then, right? Or that you say that it's finished and that you think that it's finished before putting it on here, right? Because obviously if you want to go into like the stylized realm, I think having like a 2D background or knowledge of 2D is definitely going to be super valuable. So yeah. Really cool. I haven't looked through this at all yet because this just got recently finished, right? Obviously, you kind of know my thoughts on it generally already, right? I like the style. I like the way that you rendered things out. Oh, this is actually cool. I haven't seen this yet. Cool little breakdown. Is cool. So I like the presentation of this. Like just like your thought process, right? I think that's like a very smart thing to like showcase to people. There are some parts where I'm not really sure what you're trying to showcase here, for example, right? I can kind of get that you wanted to go for like materials, but I feel like the materials here, let me actually go back. Yeah, I feel like some of the materials here, they look like way better here than they do at like the bottom here, right? So having something that is still like really nicely presented and then making it super clear that like, oh, hey, this guy over here is linked to like all these areas, right? Maybe in like a GIF format or something like that. Sometimes it's about the information and having like a clear representation of that information that really does the trick, right? Because right now you're just giving us like, you're giving us like all the puzzle pieces, but then you're expecting us to build like the puzzle itself, which is not what you want to do when it comes to like a recruitment process, right? You want to basically just throw everything on the table. Everything needs to be nice and clear. That's it. Hey, Rock One, no webcam today. I'm still a little bit ill, unfortunately, so I'm not gonna show my sick face on the camera. I thought I'd spare you all that vision, you know. Cool. This is nice, showing off some like technical stuff as well. Oh no, Tim is sick. I know, Hudson. It happened again. Oh my god. This time it's the conference flu though. I think it's just something from Gamescom, you know? Hello, Thomas. Hello, Rose. Welcome back. Wind. Avoid material. This is cool. Let's see. That is actually like really well done. That's a really clever solution. I gotta say that. Like it's something that I've had to do myself in games like Planet Coaster and all that kind of stuff. But it's just really well done. So yeah, clever little trick. I like it. All these things are well presented, right? But the texture planning, I think honestly with the texture planning, you can make it look more interesting, like something like this, right? Where you make it like a little bit more artistic, because I don't like just like, hey, this is my puref, even though you have like all the interesting notes and like all the interesting like explanations next to it, it looks really unprofessional to me, right? And even when we're doing like a breakdown, I'm like a big proponent of having the artistic consistency between all of it, right? Where I can look at your work and I know that you spend like the extra time and the extra effort to make all the breakdowns look like really nice and consistent as well. Because there is a difference between people that just, I think you're somewhere in between, right? So you have the people that just take like a screenshot from the puref without doing any notes, right? I think that's like, oh, here's my mood board, screenshot, paste it on here. Feels really lazy. You have done the extra effort of like having like all the notes and all that kind of stuff on there, right? But I think if you really want to make it clear, you have to take it into like a prettier presentation, right? And keep it consistent with all the rest of it as well. Which to me, as an artist, and as like a visual storyteller or like a visual salesperson, right? That is gonna elevate your work to like the next level. Yeah, overall, the content here, right? So there's a difference between like how you present the content, which is good, but there could still be improvements. But the actual content itself that you've put on display is really well done here, right? Like all the technical aspects, like all the little breakdowns, all the little videos, looks really interesting. I think Hudson actually brings up like an interesting point where Hudson says to bring up the technical breakdowns that you have down here and put them above like some of the more boring stuff like here. That could actually be like an interesting point. Yeah, overall, really well done, well executed. I like the look of it. I think, yeah, beautiful execution. So this is a really nice project to have on your portfolio. I think let's try to compare it to something else then, right? Oh, so this is a game as well. Okay, so it's interesting, right? Because everyone makes a lot of assumptions. And my assumption here was that this didn't look as good as the stuff that it's surrounded by. And it kind of had me intrigued, but not in a good way, if you know what I'm saying. And obviously, like, that's a limitation of like the hardware and like the workflows and all that stuff that we're trying to build it on, right? So there's nothing essentially wrong with that. But I would try to distinguish them from like your personal portfolio and make that a separate thing. Again, putting it in like a separate folder, and also having some sort of like, I don't know what the logo is, right? But having like a logo here, and then just like, okay, this is a company name, something like that, right? And if you then have that consistently on like all your thumbnails, then I can recognize really quickly that, oh, okay, so this thumbnail and this thumbnail are the same. They're tagged with like professional work or whatever. I can then see, oh, okay, so that's professional work then. Okay, so I'm gonna look at that with a different set of eyes. Always take vitamin C supplements, Tim. Oh, I should also just like start eating healthier though. I think that's also a good idea. We're making steps, you know. We're building up towards that. It's not a bad shout. Thanks for the recommendation though, Hudson. Thriving Projects is saying, hey man, really great content. Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, the stuff that we're seeing on screen, not my portfolio, right? So we're currently doing portfolio reviews, but there's really great stuff on the screen as well. So let's dive into this one then. Just really quick, because there's nothing here that we can really improve. I just wanna have like an idea of what it is, right? iOS and Android 2024. That's cool. That's from Infinity Factor. You can add that on like the thumbnail as well, and then I can see like, oh, Infinity Factor at the bottom. That's cool. Again, I would really advise you to put it in like a different folder. Yeah. Let's see, and that's like 2D, so you kind of see that making sense somewhat. Let's see. Was this a tech demo? Improving cardio changes everything. Yeah, I'm actually walking like a lot each day. I try to get... This is also a fairly new thing. I try to hit like 10,000 steps a day now, which I'm hitting like almost every day, I think. I'm getting quite close to it. So making change in the health department. Let's see. Designed to showcase Infinity Factor custom GI solution for the Unity's built-in render pipeline. This is interesting. So this is kind of like on the border between the two, right? Like I assume that this is like professional work again, but yeah. Interesting. So I would almost put that in the professional category as well. And then you've made a material here. Again, what I think adds a lot to material showcases is the context, right? That I can see that like, oh, this is a stone floor, but I can see the context that it's used in, right? Obviously with stylized work, that means that you have to model like a couple more things. But imagine this with like a couple of broken pots on and like a bit more dirt on the edges. That could look really nice, you know? It's all about like upselling what you currently have, right? Hey Titan, we will dive into that into a little bit. But thank you so much for the question. And I think going back to like Harley's portfolio, I think this is stuff that we've already seen. Right? It's been a while, but yeah. Let's have a quick look. This is from 4 years ago. 4 years ago. Oh, posted last year. Okay. Was it 3 years? Was it 3 years? Okay. So what would that look like if so if we divide this up, this is professional work, this is professional work, this is professional work, that's 2D. So that might be like a separate thing as well. And that is new. That one looks quite nice. I think that one presents itself really well. Okay, I'm gonna do an experiment here, right? So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. This one I'm gonna remove as well. This one too. This one is going to be moved to the 2D category, right? So that doesn't count. That doesn't count. That doesn't count. Let's see, what are we left with? So this one, works really well, right? Obviously, looks really nice. I think this one works really well as well. This one is interesting because it shows that you also have like a more natural side to you, right? Because this is man-made and this is nature, right? So this shows that you got some versatility in you as well, which is a benefit, right? And then you got props and 2 materials. This prop looks really nice. I think if that was just on your portfolio, I think that would be like way stronger than all the stuff that you've just added to like your portfolio right now. So yeah, I think that is definitely something to consider here. It's just cutting it down, removing all the fluff, and then focusing on the things that you love to do, right? Obviously, I don't want you to remove like any of the professional work. The 2D work can still stay, but like move them into like separate folders, right? Like these guys, I would move the 2D into a folder, and I would move the professional work into a folder, and then potentially even the challenges into a folder as well. Even though, I don't know, like, I feel like these two, maybe not even challenges, let's call them old work, because they are really old at this point, right? And that basically gives you a justification of why they look outdated compared to the rest that you have on your portfolio, right? Some of it can stand the test of time because it's well executed, like the axe, I think can stand the test of time. I don't think the skull cup works as well as it used to do, especially compared to like some of the other stuff that you've done right now, right? If we just simple comparison, take the axe and take the skull cup, like which of the two is like more interesting, right? Because they're both props and that's what you're trying to show off with that skill set, right? I would 100% go with the cup over anything else. The pumpkin chest, I would also put that in old work too. The skull cup, I would probably... Okay, let me do it a little bit of justice, right? So this is what it kind of would look like. So we have, before we dive into that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really strong pieces that shows a range of skill, a range of pipeline knowledge, right? Because it's materials, it's environments, it's props, really versatile, really good, and they show a high quality bar as well. I think with the rest of it, I would probably put all the challenges, especially put them in like old work, and make that something that is like interesting to explore if people are interested in seeing where you came from, right? But putting it into like an old work folder gives you the justification of like, hey, this is not current. This is not what I think is representable of my skill set now, but it is where I came from, right? A common technique that I actually did is I was pretty clear. Like I always built environments, right? I loved environments. That's the only thing that I wanted to do. So that's the only thing that I did. So my portfolio, I guess it still does to like a certain degree. Actually, let's see. Okay. So this is the way that I structured my work, right? Is you got professional work, which is all my professional work. Then you got personal work, which is only my personal work. That's it. My old work is gone. I've hidden all my old work. Let's see. So there's like a bunch of stuff in here that is like unpublished. So all this stuff is all stuff that I did at a certain point. Well, there's articles and all that stuff in there as well, but That's all stuff that I did, and I just didn't think that it was like representable of me in general. Even stuff that I really liked working on, you know, and worked on for quite a long time. It just wasn't representable. So yeah, sometimes you have to be brutal, right? And that doesn't mean that you can't like celebrate like where you came from. I still do, and I would probably hang like a bunch of my stuff, like in my office or something, right? But your portfolio needs to be strong, right? Hey Mark, that's a great question. We'll dive into some questions in a little bit. Okay, as a recap then, I know this was kind of like a different one, right? Maybe something that I didn't touch on is like the thumbnails, right? So let's see if we can make some quick wins here. I don't think the thumbnails look too bad. I think currently where the chaos in my head is coming from is that you have like different types of thumbnail presentations where it's like, oh, you have like the skull cup here, and then you have like the logo here, and then you have like a banner here, and then you have this thing over here. It makes it feel like really chaotic and all over the place, right? As you saw in my portfolio, I'm a big fan of keeping everything consistent, right? I think that is just like another way of showcasing that you as an artist are really interested in paying attention to like the small details, and you want to put yourself out there in a specific way, right? I'm not saying that you have to create banners or logos or anything like that. You can also do it in a way where all your materials are like kind of rendered at like sort of the same angle, right? Or all your environments, they kind of have like a detail shot first and then they open up, right? You can do it in a variety of different ways. So that's potentially something to look into. So let's do a little recap. Oh my god, reset. Number one is definitely optimization, right? What I mean by that is making sure that what you put on display is the most optimal version that is going to land you a job, right? The stuff that we talked about where we said like, oh, putting stuff in folders, removing old work or moving old work, and then maybe looking at like the consistency of your portfolio, right? Those are the things that I kind of count as like optimizing your portfolio. Kind of taken away from like number 2 and 3 by the time that I'm thinking about this. Let's see, because honestly, a lot of that came down to what I was just talking about. Number 2. Let me think. What else did we discuss, guys? What else would you say would help Harley the most? I could say improve thumbnails. Oh, yeah. I remember. Especially in the latest piece. There were oh, how do we say this? Improve the breakdown. Visuals specifically, right? That's basically coming down to this piece over here, where we specifically said that the content that is in there is really good. However, the way that it's presented can definitely be way improved, right? So that's what I mean with like improving the breakdown of visuals. Because if we go back into it, there was some really interesting stuff like this, but then also something like this where it's like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, right? Same with some stuff here. And then from Hudson's recommendation was also like moving all this technical stuff like more up, because that's like more interesting stuff to look at, right? Also, maybe thinking about it, a smaller improvement that you could do is condensing some of the information here into like one consistent format, so that we don't have, and this is very minor, but I mean, it's something that I think, I don't know, feel free to declare me crazy, but like when like an artwork jumps from like, it's not fully using like the width of the space, then it kind of jumps around like all the time. I don't know. Call me nitpicky. I feel like some sort of consistency there could also help. Yeah. I hope that was helpful, Harley. I hope that was helpful. There's definitely going to be opportunities in the space that you want to get into, right? Like the mobile space and like AAA. I feel like the slice of the pie is relatively small. Again, doesn't mean that you can't make it in, but that means that more people are generally fighting for it. I think also with like, in the last couple of years, I've seen like a massive resurgence and interest of like, oh, I want to do stylized stuff because it's more fun to work on. You're going to be competing with like a whole bunch of people, right? So keep that in mind, set realistic expectations, look at the people that are in the studios that you are at now, or like that you want to be at, and use those people as an example and even talk to them, right? For example, a friend of mine, Jasmine Habazai Fekri, who works on Wayfinder, she could be like a great source of inspiration. She's lovely to talk to as well. That might be a good inspiration. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your work, Harley. I appreciate it. Hello? Can I go back, please? Okay, before we dive into this one, let's have a look at some comments here. You can even create a graphic tag, environment, prop, and material. A graphic tag? Oh, you mean like a little banner on top of the thumbnail? Yeah, you could do. You could do. The thing... Yeah. I've seen your question, Chetan. No need to post it again. But yeah, that could be an idea. It just depends on how you do that, right? Because technically I kind of do the same, but it's like very subtle. For example, here, like at the bottom of my projects, I have like personal project, but it's super subtle. I think I would even need to increase it for like any sort of readability sake. Oh, well, no. Oh no, I was still zoomed out. Damn it. It's a bit more readable now. But yeah, this is the thing, right? Like in terms of like presentation, like the stupidest thing can help a lot. Like all the stuff that I did is I just added like, first of all, I converted all the logos that I can find for the games into white logos, black and white, apart from this one. And then I just have like a little tagline below it with like a little gradient going from the bottom. And I do that on everything right now, and it makes my portfolio feel like really nice and consistent, right? Even though like the subject material on there and like the thumbnails for them are like kind of just like, all over the place, you know? Yeah. Okay, Shaitan, let's have a look at your question. What if someone does a master at like age 25 with 4 years of experience in prop art, and after the master apply for a senior position in prop art? You're not gonna get a senior position for prop art if you wait, let's see. So 4 years of experience in prop art. Are you talking about like professional game experience? And then you want to go back to school to do a master? I mean, if you have 4 years of experience, let's assume that is like professional in a studio. Some companies might be willing to take you on as a senior, right? Like the title of senior like is very dependable, like depends a lot on the individual studio and the people that are in charge of hiring you as well. I know people that are like 3 years in and have senior in their title. I know people that are 10 years in and just made it to their first senior role, right? So it kind of all depends. It's probably in your case also like very location dependent as well. But even if we just zoom into like a certain location, right? If let's say we zoom into the UK, there's people who work in senior positions where if they were then to like apply to like another studio down the road, for example, they would not get that senior position that they currently have. Because they have a different standard for like how many years of experience you need. If you wanted to do a master's, I would only do a master's. Well, this is a tricky question, right? So, in my opinion, so take this with a grain of salt, I have like a very Central European view on this, and I'm currently living in the UK, right? So, a master or like any sort of degree to me means that the visa process is going to be way easier for you to do, right? I haven't had to deal with that all too much because, well, I had to apply for a visa to get here, and they even in that case, they didn't really care about my bachelor that I have. They cared more about the experience that I brought to the table. So I don't know if in general, like a master, if you wanted to do that, is a great idea. Assuming that for a master, you already have a bachelor anyway. Because what I can tell you, and this is repeated by like so many people, is that the games industry doesn't care about your degree. It cares about your portfolio. There are exceptions though. If let's say you want to go to America, you are going to need a degree if you want to go from abroad to America, right? That's where like a degree and like education actually comes in, because there is something like, and this is like coming from like information from like a friend of mine who did apply to like a company in America. He didn't have the education required for it, and because he didn't have the degree, he then had to do 3 years of professional work for every year of education that he missed out on, right? So let's say a bachelor degree, 3 years, he needed to have 9 years in total of professional experience before he could reapply for that same position because of the visa. Which is nuts. That makes no sense to me at all, because you learn so much more in like half a year than in those 3 years that you've done in uni. But hey, that's the way that the world works, I guess. But yeah. So I would not recommend it, and I can only give you like all the information, but it still is my opinion, right? So if you see the absolute value in getting like a master's or like another degree, that is up to you to make that decision. If you have the privilege to finish college, well, this is one of those occasions where this is a person who already has 4 years of experience in the field, right? and then wants to do a master to then apply for a senior position, where if you just do another year of professional work, you might get that senior anyway, instead of doing a master for like 2 years or something like that, right? In my opinion, the master is not going to get you the senior position. A master is more for making your case better if you wanted to move abroad somewhere. But thank you so much for the question, though. I hope that was helpful. Hey, Jeremiah, we're going to get to a question in a bit. First, we have a question from Marek. How can I start building learning environment art? Like right now we are working on a student game and I'm only doing props. So how would I go about using them for an environment art portfolio? Well, an environment is like a collection of props, right? The only thing that you're going to have to take into account when it comes to like building an environment art portfolio is that you tell a story with those props, right? So that's honestly the main difference. And usually, like I look at like the growing up, or like the pipeline of like your personal growth into learning environment art is you go from a single prop that is just it could already have story, but the story is going to be like pretty self-contained, right? And then you build your way up to a diorama, which is like a small collection of props, and then you go bigger and bigger step by step, right? But the core thing that's important there is the story that you want to tell, right? So for example, with an environment, like there has to be a story that you want to tell first before you should execute on that environment. But how you start building an environment art is basically what you're doing now, right? You're only using props, but you're working on a game. And that game is probably going to have mechanics, and it's going to have like a little bit of a story sprinkled in there to make it like interesting. So you then need to build props that are going to be in line with that story, and also compose them in a way where that helps like the game and the mechanics and also the storytelling that you're trying to set out. So think about it through those lenses. And Jeremiah is asking, what if I got my first gig, but I'm afraid I won't perform well enough? That is not up to you to decide anyway. The people that are going to be deciding if you perform well enough, like that is completely out of your control. The only thing that you can do is just go in there, do what they hired you to do, and do your best at it while also being open to change, right? They've already doubled down on the decision to hire you anyway for that portfolio, through your portfolio for that first gig. So at that point, like they already see promise in you, right? So all you can do now is just prove that you can do some stuff, right? The bar is honestly, I'm going to be pretty honest here. The bar usually for juniors is not that high. Like, you are not going to be able to like compete with like seniors or like outperform them or all that kind of stuff. It's about you, how you execute individual things, and how you get help from other people and ask questions. So the best thing that I can say there is don't be afraid. The hard stuff is already kind of done. It's like actually moving to the place and like getting to work there. Now you just need to open yourself to this new experience, ask questions to the people that are knowledgeable, and see how much you can grow, like for your own sake, right? And also for the company's benefit, right? I'm probably going to ask if I could build up some levels as I'm currently making props and pass them to our 2D artist who is making levels. We have a weird separation of roles. Yeah, I honestly think that if you can tell the 2D artist to do less levels and build more concepts for you to make levels from, that will help their case as well if they want to be a 2D artist, right? Because that's how it works in the industry too, right? Where you have a separation of like, hey, we have people who come up with the ideas, right? Those are the 2D artists, the concept artists. They come up with the ideas. They're like the energy that they spend almost all the time goes to the logic and the ideas behind it. And then we as 3D artists are the execution that comes on top of their ideas, right? These days, it's more about timing and good old luck when competing against other artists for a junior position. It's always been like that, to be fair. I wouldn't let that stop you from like doing your absolute best on like any front that you have control over. I'm generally not a fan of narratives where you as a person hand over all control to like something else, right? That's why we do these portfolio reviews as well, right? Like this is an exercise in like getting the maximum amount of output out of the input that you've done like over the years, right? This is just one case, obviously, but that doesn't mean that like being there on time and having a little bit of luck and knowing some people is definitely going to be in your benefit, for sure. All right. Keep it up with the questions, people. We're going to be diving into the next one here. So next one is Alexander Blaney. Oh, hello, McFell. Did I completely skip you? I saw you saying something earlier. Oh, no. Okay. Let's see. Don't dive into anything yet. Creative environment artist bringing great team building environment and cohesion, able to not only handle and manage my own workload, but also offer those but often offers help to those who need it. Okay. Sorry, my brain just malfunctioned there. Can also adapt quickly to art styles and workflows and pivots. Okay, last part is kind of like, I don't know, bit of a throwaway thing. Because honestly, this part here is more of show, don't tell. What I mean by that is that if I can't see that you can adapt to like multiple art styles here, then it doesn't matter if you say it or not, right? I would honestly keep this description here like relatively simple and just keep it like very matter of fact that you're like an environment artist with let's see, bringing great team building environment, because a lot of this feels like too sticky and too icky, right? So like an environment artist with the love of working in teams, and then being able to adapt quickly to art styles. Don't even think you need that, honestly. So maybe reword this to an environment artist that loves being part of teams with an interest in, and what are your interests, right? Because right now you're only talking about like something that is like towards the company, right? Yeah, exactly. Like Adam is saying, like make it something about you rather than like, hey, this is like what you're looking for, right? But it doesn't really tell us anything about yourself. So like Adam is saying, what you like is a very good thing to add here, because this is not your like application form, right, for a specific company. This is your profile. Let's see, quickly going to the about. Nothing of note necessarily here, right? That looks like very standard. Like I'm not seeing like any professional skills or any professional developments yet. So let's have a look. Yeah, 100% Adam. If you were to write something about like how connected you are to game art, and then you say something like, I don't know, I like making fantasy environments. You should show like fantasy environments and not only show like sci-fi, right? I was taught anatomy from bone structure. At the same time, I taught myself hard surface modeling. I then use my knowledge to asset development to create a full game-ready asset. Okay. Oh, this is a while ago. What did you do here? Oh, okay. So the pipes. Okay. Poly painted rust with this. Okay. So it's just like really simple models with like a title ball slapped on top of it. Okay. Is that it? I mean, that sounds so negative, but okay, that's an interesting one. Liking much of the kit. We'll dive into like my reaction there in a little bit. What materials used? Tim is mean. I know, sometimes I am. I get so in the zone with like giving feedback that sometimes like just I can't stop myself, you know? 4-month project at Think Tank. Okay. Oh. This is it. Okay. Final piece for my mentorship at Think Tank. And this art piece is called Don't Lie. Long hours, fun, confusing, and awesome all at once. Oh shit, that's cool. Isn't that like the lead at CDPR? Might be mistaken there. Lovely workshop. Okay. This is a sizable amount of assets that you've done. Wait, but there's so much missing here. Like, I'm so intrigued. Like, did you do all of it? Like, okay. It was done in a 48-hour time frame. This is cool. First person view as well. Oh, thank you for the question. I think someone else actually asked that question as well. If you go into the description of the video, I think there should be a link down there, if I'm not mistaken, where you can submit your portfolio. We do have quite a long waiting list at the moment though, but that's fine. We'll get through it at some point. Think Tank, I heard it's great, but it's very expensive. Oh yeah, like some of the prices of these schools like don't make sense to me as like a person who came from like very cheap, well, very affordable school. Don't want to call it cheap. Okay, cool. So really interesting portfolio. I don't know, we went through like a lot, but it also wasn't a lot at the same time, and I'll explain what I mean with that. Is that a lot of these posts, they're really light on any sort of details, any sort of breakdowns, or anything like that. It is really weird. For example, this one is like, okay, 4-month long project. That is cool. And then you have one image. And I'm like, huh? Is it like no more images? I kind of want to see like how you approached your materials, how you did like some assets. Like there must be some cool assets in there that you can just like showcase and just be like, hey, this is the way that I approached my stuff, and this is the way that it came out looking. Right? Because it feels like 4 months. Okay, I'm gonna be pretty open here. If it is 4 months, and like let's say that all you did was like grabbing like a couple of titleable materials and like trying to get the most out of it, then I wonder where those 4 months have gone. But that's why I'm saying there must be more to this, right? Like I'm curious to look at like this air conditioning unit to kind of see how it looks up close and how you approach things. Same with like some of the roofs, or maybe like the staircase, or I don't know, like maybe the water thingy on the top, right? So this is interesting, right? Because you mentioned Hudson mentioned in the chat, just don't mention 4 months then. In this case, again, being like very transparent, I think that the quality bar isn't high enough to make me think that it was even 4 months. I know that this is very open and honest, but if I were to see this without a time frame, I would have not guessed that it was going to be 4 months. I think that it was going to be shorter. I know that that is very open, and I know that there's like a lot of learning that goes into this as well. But to me, it kind of hints at that there is like still like a lot of fundamental knowledge that hasn't been taught at this stage, right? Keep in mind, we're also talking about something that's from last year, right? So maybe in the meantime, a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge has been gained. And the reason why I'll say that, to explain that a little bit further, is that because there's nothing really too complex in here. Like all of it could honestly just be made with like a couple of titleables and a couple of masks up until this stage, right? Like if you want to improve this, like you need to do like a lot more decal work and a lot more specific work and make more use of the geometry and all that kind of stuff. But all the individual elements that we're seeing here, from the materials to the textures to the geometry to the way that everything is kind of laid out, is relatively basic. Again, I'm being pretty open here. That doesn't mean that there are not good things in here though. Like some of the way that you like outlined some of the pipes here, they showed like an intricate connection to like the rooftop and like certain other elements too. The way that you've like translated the concept to what we see on the screen before us as well, like that just by itself takes time as well, right? So I do get that there is a lot of effort that went into it. But yeah. And that's also one of those things where I kind of want to see more. I kind of want to see more individual things. I want to see the materials. I want to see the textures. All that kind of stuff is missing here. And there's always two ways here, right? Well, there's probably more, but like immediately that comes to my head is like, okay, this person was really insecure about what they were doing, and maybe they don't even know what they were doing at that point. That's why they're not showing more to convince us that they know what they're doing, right? I know that this is like a very, very cynical take, but I can see that like recurring whenever I was doing recruitment. I can see people being like, oh, okay, yeah, this, I don't know, there's only one image here, not convincing to me, okay, we're moving on. It's that kind of stuff, right? It is very intense sometimes, and that's something that you have to take into account as well. Let's have a look. And then there's this one here where I'm like surprised, like pleasantly surprised by the amount of stuff that you've made. I just want to know how you made it, right? Like, because I can guess. Maybe let's have a look here. Maybe there's something in here. Nah, it's just a fly through. Okay. Like a static image. Like a little bit of dust. Because again, like, I want to know how you've made some of these elements, right? Because I can guess, but that's not what a lot of people are going to have the time or even going to put in the effort to do so, right? So I want you to show me, like, hey, this is what I'm proud of. This is how I made it. This is my craft. This is how I do things. Like, show it to us, right? Because otherwise, if you're going to leave us guessing, a lot of it is just going to be like pretty simple. Where I'm guessing that a lot of it is just made out of like the same materials we use in the whole scene. And you just slap them onto like different objects. And that could work if you then build like a whole bunch of things on top of that, right? So one of the techniques that is like really common is the second UV workflow, right? Where you texture your object in the first UV by just slapping like a couple of trims or tilables or whatever on it that you need, right? And then in the second UV, you then use that unique detail that you have in your unique UV layout. You then use that to dictate what like your masks are going to be so that you can elevate it on top of like your tileable look that you have, right? Because now one of the issues here is that the wood on the stock here looks the same as the wood on the base here. And that is something that you can do that, right? But then you have to do the extra effort to set them apart and make them unique for each other too. Coffee is saying, it took me a while to notice that I'm rushing projects too. Some kind of release as soon as possible mentality, which resulted in lack of such mid and small detail. Yeah, like in general, for anyone's portfolio, like speed or quantity of the amount of stuff that you have on your portfolio doesn't matter at all. It's only the quality. Only. That's why, like, at this point, I mean, it's kind of a weird example because I'm in a different position, right? Like, I spent the last 3 years, like, on and off creating, like, a medieval project, right? But the reason why I can do that now is because I know that the quality is up there, right? And I've actually used that in my application process that I did at Playgrounds, right? It's always kind of hazy, like how much like that convinced them or not, right? But that was basically the main thing that we talked about the entire time. And it's not even on my portfolio, right? But that's just to say that like you can have like one thing on your portfolio that is going to convince people out there that you know what you're doing and you should be hired immediately. That is a high risk game, but I've seen people do that. And it's a better, I wouldn't advise either of these strategies, right? But if you have to choose between one really high thing or 10 really low quality things, like, I know which one to pick, you know? Obviously, you need more than one portfolio piece on there for sure. But yeah, if you want to make it like really black and white. Could still be a good thing. That means you can finish something. So it is a good thing in terms of like getting yourself into this like mindset that you have to finish something, and that if you start on something, that you are gonna finish it. Like that is good from like a personal mentality standpoint, right? So I agree there, but it becomes super detrimental if, like you said, Coffee, that you never take the time to focus on mid and small details, because this is done. Now I need to get to the next thing, you know? Okay, and that needs to be done. And then the next thing, that needs to be done. That's like almost like frantic, like energy injected into like, hey, I want to finish something, right? I mean, I'm not saying that was you, right? Just as like a general thing again. Alexander, let's have a look at some of the other pieces. Okay. Okay. This is cool. We're getting breakdowns, right? We can see the materials. We can see how you created your stuff. We can see the breakdown for the barn. This is cool. It's not ideal, but this is awesome compared to some of the other things, right? Because now I get a little bit of context. Yeah, okay. See? This one doesn't have any breakdowns, I think, right? Yeah. Also, again, we kind of talked about this, but like 48 hours time frame. There's not a lot of people that can do like something really high quality and complex like you're trying to do in this time frame, right? So I would rather have you say like, nope, this looks good as a base, but I'm gonna finish and I'm gonna add stuff on top of it because I like where it's going, rather than being like, hey, I made this in 2 days. Using Unreal Engine for the first time. To be fair, I know that I'm always like freaking critical, right? Hello V, you can find the link to post your portfolio in the description down below, I think. I think I say with full confidence. What I was saying though, I'm always super critical about the work that I see on the stream, right? I always am. But if this is like your first time using Unreal Engine 5 and using the PBR engine, like the PBR pipeline for the first time, this is great. This is a great first try, you know? Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm always like super critical when it comes to portfolios and people's work. But that's because I know that a lot of people can do better, right? Yeah. I would say in this specific instance, let's do a little recap. First one would be keep learning and keep pushing yourself, right? I know that I've been critical, maybe a bit too critical, right? Also, let's see. Okay, sorry, I was just reading like the comments that Alexander made on our Discord as well. Keep learning and improving. What I would point you at is do a single prop and specifically do it high to low poly. I know this sucks. This freaking sucks. To clear it out, is there a link in the description? Because I couldn't find it. Damn it! Is there no link? Hold on. Let me post it in here. I think I might have missed it. Sorry for baiting you like this. What I was saying, I know that this sucks, Alex. I had to go through the same kind of steps too. But I would honestly have you look at this first, because that is going to be the foundation of everything else that you do. And pick something simple, right? Pick something simple like a gas canister. Like a gas canister or something like that, right? Keep it super, super simple when it comes to this. And then build your way back up to the stuff that you're doing now, right? Because what you want to do in your environments is you want to start with a story first, right? This is going to go a little bit off track, but I do really want to help you. So story first, then figure out what the hero prop is going to be. Then figure out what your supporting assets are going to be. Right? So in this case, you kind of already have that down, especially in your banner, right? So you kind of have a story here. I don't know what the story really is, but there is a story there, right? And the main prop is a weapon. So bam, you got that sorted. Now, what can support the story that is linked to this gun with like stuff that's around here, right? And then you could try to make that with like low poly to high poly to low poly, or you could make that in the way that you've made the assets now. But the rest of it then, you know, like everything from your banner, that can be done in the same way that you're doing it now by just using titleables and all that kind of stuff, right? And then number 3 is game art, right? Like these two were focused on trying to get your quality up, right? So the quality needs to go up first. However, game art comes down to breakdowns, and you work within certain technical limits and technical restrictions that are set when we're creating games, right? And that doesn't come down to quality, but it's just proof, right? Because you want to prove that you are capable of doing the quality within technical restrictions as well, right? So, quick little recap. Start with a single prop, high poly to low poly, and then build your way up from there. Second, if you are doing that, start with a story. Like, even if it's like a single prop, think about a story that you can add on to the prop, right? Make it more than just a simple gas canister. Make it someone's favorite gas canister, right? And then number 3, present game art. Show what you did, right? Don't only have the one image, but like show the way that you did it. Show the way that you approach some materials. Show the way that you've done certain things, right? Like, I want to know more. Like, there were a bunch of times in your portfolio where I was just like so confused that there was only one image. I want to see how you did things, right? Like the modular image here, like, okay, we're seeing something. But yeah, I kind of want to see like, okay, what, how did you do the trim sheets? Like, how did you do the materials? Like all that kind of stuff. Like, try to break it down more, right? I hope that was helpful, Alex. Thank you for showing off your portfolio as well. I know that I've been critical, I've been harsh. I hope you forgive me, but I think sometimes that's what we need in life, right? And if you need any more, if you want any more help, if you need any more questions, feel free to ping me directly. You know where to find me on Discord, right? So please make use of that. Coffee is talking about, since you stay on one project for very long for quality, it can and just happens when you get bored or tired of it, etc. Yeah, but that's why in the beginning, you don't want to be doing like the stupid thing that I'm doing, right? You don't want to be building a world. You want to be building something tiny. Because the shorter you make the time span of your project, the less chance there is of you getting bored because of them, right? There's tips and tricks that you can apply to environment art as well, where instead of doing everything yourself, you only focus on the things that matter to you, and then find other ways of doing the things that you don't want to do, right? Or don't want to focus on necessarily. For example, a quick example is always using Megascans trees if you don't want to do foliage, right? Quick example, hey, I want to build a world, but I don't want to make a trees. Go for Megascans. Very simple example here, but there's like tons of ways that you can take like shortcuts and only focus on the things that you want to do. Yeah. When focusing on quality, I had the experience that quality suffers if a deadline is at stake, unless you're optimal with your workflow and save lots of times with tools. That requires experience. Yeah, not necessarily, right? Like it comes down to what I was saying before, where usually what we want to do in the beginning is we want to make worlds. But we don't have all the tools and like all the skills to do that yet. So we need to scope down. Like, very simple. Like, again, if you're just starting out, a single prop. If you want to build environments so you have some experience, take a single camera. Take a single camera and keep the space quite contained, right? Like you can make a single camera of like someone's basement. For example, here, in the case of Daniel, right? Daniel made a full environment, but it is a single camera of just like a basement. That's it. Hello, Marek. I saw your question. Thank you so much for pinging it again. Let me scroll up a little bit just to make sure that we don't have any missed questions. Should I ask for internship even if an unpaid one? I didn't hear of paid ones here and work for them a few months. It depends on the country. Some countries are just legally not allowed to pay you for an internship. I know that you ideally should always have like a paid internship, right? And that's like the first thing to ask for. I think Belgium even like has a rule where they don't have to pay you. So I think a lot of companies just don't, but they can if they want to. Yeah, obviously what's going to be the outcome of that. I don't know if that ruling changed. It's been a long time. But yeah. I would always look for a paid one. And if you know that like locally to you, if locally to you or whatever you're looking, like they only have like the unpaid ones, if you don't have to move, it might work out. If you have to move for an unpaid internship, I would advise you not to. Because you're going to be working for someone 3 to 6 months and you're going to pay it all out of your own pocket? Like, are you going to take a loan to work for like a company? Like, that makes no sense. Unless your government has like, there's a couple of things. Unless you're still like part of a uni and the uni has like some sort of like scheme to help you support yourself. Might work. If the government does the same thing, might work. But honestly, if none of that was available, if no financial support is available, like you have to move somewhere, I would just not move. No matter how enticing that sounds, yeah, I would not do it. You should never have to pay out of pocket to just work somewhere. Sounds ridiculous. Straight up. I mean, it's a good question though, right? I feel a lot of people have been running into those things, into those situations. Just reading through the chat here. Question: what to do if I'm not too interested in art? I find how things work more interesting. Don't do art then. I mean, the answer is in the question, right? Like if you're really not interested in art, there's enough. And if you still want to get into games, right? There's still enough principles or like disciplines for you in games that can make that work, right? Technical art is still you have to do some art, but there are like other things that you can do, like finding out like how things work, like a game designer would do, right? Like basically building connections between systems and like setting up their own systems and building the connective tissue of like the whole game. That could also be interesting. If you find out how things work more interesting, concept art might also be interesting, but then you're not too interested in art. But I feel like in concept art, especially in games, yeah, we all see like the fancy images, right? And yet it's like a really cutthroat like part of the industry. But it is mostly about the ideas and how things work. You know what? Maybe you're right. Well, yeah, like if you don't like doing art, then don't do art for art's sake, right? There's enough other options out there. Even not in games, right? Like I just talked about like the game stuff. If you think about like how things work, and if that is really the thing that interests you, there's still enough options. Like I said, even within games, right? Thanks. I don't have to move, only travel, and as a student, I have train transportation for free in Slovakia. And sorry for repeating the question. No worries. No worries. Only travel. Is the travel paid by the company then? Are they reimbursing you for the travel? In that case, it's not necessarily that bad of a thing. I mean, I hope that your travel is not as expensive as in the UK. But yeah. Here's hoping. I mean, I'm more interested in how baking works in the back end. Okay, so if you're that kind of person, I mean, then honestly, you might be more like a tech artist or even like programmer kind of person. Like if that is really your thing, if you wanna dive into like, well, stopping myself from ranting on UK travel prices. I know it's fucking ridiculous. But well, there needs to be like a sort of translation from like, hey, I'm interested to know how things work, to like, I'm gonna build my own stuff, right? Because if you don't have that switch from like, oh, I want to build my own stuff that is gonna do slightly different, and I'm gonna try a different way of things, then if you never make that switch, then you're just a person who's interested in something but doesn't want to become a person who does those things, right? Something to think about, maybe. Like, for example, I've always been really interested in concept art, and I wanted to be one at a certain point, but I've realized that I'm not a person that does that. Let's see. If I'm an artist, still has many technical aspects into it. Yeah, but you're probably never gonna touch those technical aspects though. There are people that can do like a little bit of technical stuff on the side, but it's fairly unlikely. Because it seems that environment art is more and more trending in, well, I'm talking about like from a AAA perspective, right? So take that into account. It seems to be more and more trending into like level art, which is just like storytelling and building places. Not necessarily making the environments yourself, necessarily. At least in my experience. You can learn programming and it's paid more as well. Yeah, for sure. You can even switch out of games and make 5 times the amount of money. Programming can be like really lucrative, for sure. But I would not want to do it. Like, I love doing art. I love it so much. Let's see. What are some of the other questions in here before we move on? Pew 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 is asking, hi, can you make a simple steps on how to make environment art for games with tips to avoid burnout and boredom? I know it's too much to ask, but sometimes it happens to me. So if you want to avoid boredom and burnout, oh god, I mean, that is such a deep technical topic. Because there's so many ways out, right? And it's so specific to what you're currently doing. Because when usually an indication of boredom is that you're not doing what you want to do, right? And burnout is usually an indication that you've just taken on too much and you put too much pressure on yourself, right? In this case, specifically. So when we look at those things, like boredom just means that you're either doing the same thing for too long or you're doing a thing that generally doesn't interest you. When it comes to burnout, is that you're just doing too much of the thing that you don't care about, right? So the two can be related somehow. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Thomas is saying, I firmly believe that you cannot get real burnout from doing personal work. I believe that you can get really tired of it and need a break, but burnout is a completely different beast. I think I agree. Yeah, I feel like burnout is like a thing that people throw around now as if it's like, yeah, just like a regular thing, like a regular occurrence. I have been mentally and physically exhausted from doing work. I have never had a burnout. And I have worked on projects for multiple years that had me mentally exhausted, right? In certain cases. And I still consider that I have never had a burnout. So when I hear people talking about that, especially with personal work, I always feel like really skeptical as well. Like, it just, to me, it feels like you're just not doing the thing that you want to do, and might be a good indication that you need to experiment a little bit more with different things. And different things could be super broad, right? Super broad as in, maybe you're not working in the right style. Maybe you haven't found the right workflow. Maybe you're not using the correct programs. Or maybe you should be doing 2D instead of 3D. You know, like, it's so broad. And I know I know that to open like a can of worms for you. I know that you just wanted some advice on like making environment art for games, but I don't know. I kind of opened a can of worms now. Sorry. The strongest human alive? I hope you're not referring to me, because I'm definitely not. I mean, I'm sitting here sick, so there's something not right with me either. I cannot go outside without getting sick now. Ugh. What's the saying? Burnout is 100% become one of those terms that's overused. Becoming bored of a process or art is not burnout. It's either lack of discipline or you don't actually enjoy it. Yeah, so what really helped me right, is that I have a lot of variation in my life. And with variation, I mean, I love working, right? Get that straight out of the way. Like, I love working. I do like an 8-hour job. I run Beyond Extent on the side, and I do a whole bunch of variety of different things that a lot of people don't even realize that I'm doing. All to do with Beyond Extent or like my personal work, right? But that's the way that I love it. But I can also see that in the beginning, that is not the thing that you can kind of afford yourself to do. Because if you're trying to get into the games industry as a video games environment artist, you have to be like very precise and very goal oriented. Like, that is going to be my goal, so I'm just going to crank out stuff to go on my portfolio, right? So I, at this point, I'm doing a whole bunch more, right? Like, I'm doing, I don't know, like I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff basically, and I'm not even gonna name them. But yeah, at a certain point, you will be able to afford yourself that as well, because the reason why I bring this up is because even if I'm working on like personal projects, right? If we think about this in like a microcosm, I'll get back home and I'll be like, okay, I've worked on material creation for the entire day. Ugh, I can't see a graph anymore. But I'm stoked to do like some modeling, right? So I'm like, cool, I'll just do some modeling. And then I'll flip it upside down whenever I do a lot of modeling at work. I'm not going to come home and do a bunch of modeling. I'm going to try and see if I can do some materials or something else. Does that mean that there are going to be days where, like, at the final stretch of a project and you just have to bite the bullet? I think there are. There are going to be days where it's going to suck. And that might not be like the best advice, but that's the reality that's been to me, you know? Like, making art and like having this goal-oriented like workflow and like really precisely like working towards like a bigger goal sucks a lot of the time. And that's fine, because you're working towards like a bigger goal, right? Like, our brain is kind of like against us at that point, where it's trying to give you like a whole bunch of distractions, and it's kind of throwing you like a bunch of stuff to kind of get you distracted from the thing that you actually should be doing, because short-term gratification is easier to attain than seeing things in the long term, right? So all this being said, sometimes the thing that sucks is the thing that you need to be doing the most. Yeah, life is complicated. Everyone's life is complicated. And the thing that I like about that is that you get to figure it like one step at a time. Like, I get this question a lot where people talk about like, oh, how do you find the time or the motivation? It's like, I've found that like over the years of trying stuff that didn't work, right? That's the reality of it. Like, I tried so much stuff, and then once I found something that kind of did work, I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, this actually seems to be going somewhere. Post-it notes. I'm a big sucker of Post-it notes. Other people hate it, but I love it. So I use them on a daily basis. Maybe I just lack the discipline and the structure, but there are days like that. It's pew pew pew. So I'll give you an easy tip when it comes to that. And this is actually, there's a bunch of books on this. Atomic Habits from, I think, James Clear is probably like a good way to get into this. But it's, the way that I approached it is you want to set yourself up for success, right? The way that you do that and the way that you build that up, that discipline, that structure, is by doing small things, right? So every day, half an hour of work, that's it. Everyone can do half an hour of work. Just do it half an hour, and then you can do whatever you want. Because usually what we run into is that getting started is the hardest thing, right? So you come home, you're like, oh, I just had nice food, sitting down with my partner, like, this is so nice. I don't want to do work. It's like, yeah, but like, if you don't do the work, then how are you going to build those bricks up to eventually build a house, right? Or like work towards that big goal. Like, that's what we're all trying to do, right? And the way that you do that is by splitting that up into like smaller bricks. So the way that I did that, it was the same thing, right? Like half an hour consistently, day by day. And what is gonna change over time is that you're gonna find your routine, which is really important. You're gonna have like a set routine, and then you can like start like pushing the amount of time, right? So 30 minutes at first, maybe an hour later. And now I'm doing, I don't even know how long, but I still have like the minimum there, right? But there's days where I'll work like, oh, I'll do like 4 hours. Yeah, I'll do that. Like really easily. And there's days where you're like you're saying, pew pew pew, where it's like, it just sucks today. But you still do that half an hour because you don't want to break that habit. Building actionable habits is super important. Yeah, I think so. Like the book that I mentioned by James Clear is really good on that. There's a bunch of other books. There's a bunch of YouTube videos. I think his book is like turned into like a little YouTube video too. But yeah, that's basically the short of it. After 12 hours of working just because I love it and it relaxes me. Oh, thanks, Daniel. Oh yeah, motivation is... It's not even motivation, right? Like some other people said it in the chat as well. Like Thomas said it. Like motivation is an illusion. Discipline is a real king. Yeah. I think what a lot of people that I talk to, right, is that, oh, hey, I'm really motivated to do this now because I went onto ArtStation and I'm just really inspired and motivated. And then I'm just like, okay, that is good, but how are you going to sustain that over the long term? And a lot of people, they do this like really intense, like 12 hour, 16-hour day. And they're like, oh, but it's a nice looking block out. And then it's like, oh shit, like what do I do now? Like, yeah, that's not going to help you. Like, it's better to build up a habit where you do it on a daily basis and then you do it consistently. Imagine getting a job in the industry and then saying, I'm not motivated to do art today. Yeah, you should never say that. But there's definitely going to be days where you're like, definitely spending less time on it. Or less motivated to do so. Call your mom. Yeah, exactly. So this is the thing, right? Like, I went to like the quote unquote workaholic side, like really hard. And then exactly like Hudson said, like my mom was like, hey, can we call this weekend? Because like, it's been a while since we called. And I had to turn that back, right? Like that's one of those things, like one of those steps of like, oh, I'm trying to improve my life. And my life can not only be work. So I need to dial it back. And I need to schedule time for my mom and all that kind of stuff as well. Which I do now. Like every week we have a call, which is super nice. But that's the thing. You have to find the stuff that works for you. And for some people that sounds silly, right? Like Dale's probably laughing at the fact that I just scheduled time to call my mom. But that's the way that it works now. I get motivated when I get jealous. Yeah, but that's temporarily though, right? I mean, I used to get that too. But if you don't have like a consistency backing that up, like it's fleeting, right? Because I mean, we're all human. I had the same thing too. Like there would be, and I still have that now. Like when other people like publish work, like for example, when my friends published like a new tutorial that they did for like side effects for like Houdini. I'm always like, oh, I want to be a part of that too. You know? And that jealousy that kind of used to get me really, but now what I have is I still have that initial impact, right? So I still get jealous and I'm like, oh, I should be doing that. But then there's a part of me that's like, not really though, because that's their path and they're walking like a different path than I'm trying to walk, right? And they're absolutely brilliant at what they do. And I'm trying to be brilliant at something else. So everyone is just doing their own thing. One thing that would actually drive me more is when other people would say you cannot do it. Like, that would actually drive me more than any time that I got inspired to do work from like watching someone else. Exactly. Hey, I'm walking here. No, it's something that you get to learn, right? It's just, you got to be happy for the people that you're surrounded yourself with instead of like getting jealous, right? Especially if it's people that you know, right? I'm so freaking excited when people drop their work now and it's like, oh my god, like it's been so long since I've seen it, like this is awesome. Yeah, we all thought we need to do portfolios. Let's dive into a portfolio. But yeah, some really good discussions, guys. It's all just part of being an artist, you know? It's all just part of being an artist. And just, if there's one thing, just think about the 1% improvement each day. Whatever that means for you, just do that. Okay, Daniel, let's have a look. Daniel from Vienna, looking for full-time employment. Nothing in description. Don't really need it, honestly. Freelance prop artist at Offer Depot. Okay, cool. Do you have any proof? Do you have like any stuff here? It was only a couple of months, right? So I'm not sure if abandoned. Oh wait. Oh, am I stupid? Is that the one that we were just looking at? Is that this one? No, right? Hey! Got all the people in the chat here too. Gang. I have a whole asset pack. I have not put it up just yet. Okay. Yeah. That is cool. I would definitely add that on here, right? Kind of adds to like the, what is it? The professional status of your portfolio, right? That can definitely help it. Let's see. Presentation is nice and consistent. Good idea. Yeah, you just have to squeeze the most out of it, right? Oh, okay. Seeing the numbers. I was like, what's happening? It's cool. Yeah, I'm not sure about the reference boards. I've said this like 1,000 times, right? I'm gonna leave it up to your discretion now. I feel like I don't really get anything out of it myself unless I can like really zoom into it. But yeah, I don't know. It's always like a hit and miss, I feel. But the rest of it looks really nice though. Very, very well presented. Like all the breakdowns as well. RGB masking setup. Yeah. I think this one looks really nice. It's also a good showcase that you can just do like an environment that has storytelling, that has set dressing, all that kind of stuff in it, right? I would say the main thing that stands out to me is like the VFX, but obviously you don't want to get like a job as a VFX artist anyway, so I don't think anyone is going to hold that against you. It's just that it's like really noticeable, right? But like I said, that's like a minor thing. Yeah, I feel like some of the height on these guys is a little bit strong, right? We're not going to be talking too much about art over here. Like necessarily art feedback. It's more about the bigger picture, right? Clear wireframe. It's looking cool. I mean, this is tiny stuff, right? Like I would see if you can squeeze like the wireframe of like both of them like close together. Maybe even cut out like a bit of the cable. The cable is not going to be as important, right? Because if you see like one section, you can assume that like the entire thing is going to be the same. What could be interesting though is usually when I'm missing the context, right? So the context of the wireframe actually being on top of the model so that I can see how and where the edges have been used, right? Because now it's just like a black void. I'm not really getting any context of the actual wireframe. Maybe a tiny thing here. It just has like a UV checker pattern on it. Where it kind of looks like these guys too. Again, tiny stuff. Can do an overlay. Yeah, like an overlay. That could definitely help. What I was curious at though. Oh, there's like little ribbons on it. Okay. This is cool where you have like the frayed cable coming out of it. It's a really cool detail, you know? Yeah. Really well done. Let me get some additional context from your question. For my next environment, I was thinking about a more outdoor scenes with a big rock and cliffs and a stone ruin on a mountain. Kind of Scottish or Icelandic scene. I want to focus more on adding procedural techniques into development with Houdini. And I wanted to ask what your thoughts are about this. Tools ideas or something like this. So rock scattering in Houdini or PCG. A rock generator, a pad generation, house generator. Fog and cloud generator, ways to define spaces for the houses. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff in here, right? If we were to look at like all these different things, I would honestly keep it to the stuff that you're most interested in. So, for example, the fog and the cloud generator, I don't think is going to be as relevant for what you want to show off for your work, right? Whereas scattering rocks or I don't know, the landscape or something like that could be like extremely important, right? Because I'm always looking at it through a lens of Uh, okay. Yeah, it's been a while. Sorry about that. I changed my mind now, going full environment art now. Okay, that's cool. So you're not thinking any more Houdini then? Is this going to be focused on environment art? No Houdini, full environment art. Okay, cool. You could, if you wanted to, you could kind of do something where you can still use like PCG, right? If you wanted to. I just don't want it to go as far as Houdini, because when you're talking about Houdini, you're more talking about like an environment tech artist, you know? That it kind of becomes something else, especially for the time that you will be investing into. So yeah, I think PCG or something like that could be interesting if you wanted to dive into it. You only have like 2 things on here, right? Let me actually double check here. Got all the props. They're looking quite nice. The materials, they can definitely use some work. I mean, they're definitely serviceable inside of the environment itself, right? Definitely more than serviceable. It's just when you like isolate them, that's when you can see that like some of the stuff looks like pretty weird. Where's that even used? Let's see. Let's see. There might just be like a slight blend or something like that. Copper pipe? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that sort of stuff is like very intense for just being like a copper pipe in the background, right? It's very noisy. But it is small. Yeah, it is tiny stuff. What I would say, if you wanted to do something for the future, right? Like, it is paying attention to the smaller detail. For example, when it comes to the breakage of the holes, right? It feels very clean, the way that it's broken off. I love that you have the splinters, but I'm imagining that depending on how it was broken off, right? You can kind of see that like people just broke it off by, I don't know, like a pry bar or something like that, right? I'm assuming. You're probably gonna have like a lot of this stuff just like sticking up as well. And a lot of this stuff sticking up here too. And then also in terms of like the read on some of the materials as well, like it's just a little bit too noisy. And the reason why I focus on those 2 things is because like you can noise and yeah, exactly, like no resting areas, like rest versus detail, like using those in like a very effective manner can help you direct the eye towards somewhere, right? For example, another thing is this boiler in the back, right? It looks like it's lighter than the environment, and it kind of has like this weird effect where it kind of pops out from the background a little bit. You're just pushing that more into the background, making it a little bit more hidden. It's one of those tiny things that in the grand scheme of thing, like it's not that noticeable, but it can help you be clearer in the way that you construct your image, right? And the way that you use all those details is going to matter as well. So yeah, that could be something to take into like your next environment, like paying extra attention to like how noisy some of the materials are, how light or how dark something is, and how you can like hide it better in the background if it's not necessarily for the composition, stuff like that, right? I'm talking about like very art fundamental, like high vision things at the moment. Yeah, I think when it comes to definitely struggle with that. Good point. I mean, you got like the fundamentals of the scene are beautiful already, right? So you're like in a really good spot to then start working on those things too, because you can tell that on this radio as well, where you kind of struggle with the same thing as like the ability of being subtle with how you do certain transitions. For example, the stuff that we pointed out here, right? That can be like really nice and subtle damage. But the way that you kind of treated the whole prop is that this entire thing, super scratched up and like pretty uniform. This section over here, like pretty dirty. And it kind of makes for like a very overwhelming visual experience that doesn't really give us like any nice contrast, right? I've been watching a lot of like Alan Wake now, and the way that I love their environments especially is because there is a lot of contrast in them. Oh my god, this is a creepy image. Sorry about that. Thanks, ArtStation. Let's see. It's always hard to find like really interesting pictures. Never mind. Oh god, yeah, sorry Rust. God damn it. Sorry for the nightmares, people. That was fully unintentional. Damn it. Sorry. But yeah, just the contrast between very dull looking materials like a concrete, right? And then having like a puddle on the concrete. Like the contrast between that always looks like so sexy, right? Especially because we can direct where that goes. So for example, if you then have the material here be like relatively dull, and then the material of the glass be like still like pretty reflective, that could be pretty interesting. Because right now, if you look at the roughness of the whole thing, like it's kind of uniform across the board, right? Especially on the front of it, it's just like very noisy. Daba is asking a good question. So, which level do you think this portfolio resembles, like strong, junior, or mid, or doesn't it work something like that? That is a very good question. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that at all, because whether it's like strong junior, a mid, or let's say a senior, kind of depends on the role that you're advertising for, right? So, let's say if I'm looking for like a prop artist, like it would be like a completely different like yeah, I know, it's such a boring and like used out answers. That's why I'm trying to give like a lot of context with this, right? Is that if I'm looking for like a prop artist, right? Like this could be something along the line, right? But that line can still shift depending on what quality bar the studio is looking for. So you could have like, let's say company A, they have like their bracket, right? Which is like junior, mid, and let's say senior, right? To simplify it. For company A, it might be, oh, this portfolio might be, here, right in the middle. But then if I go to company B, they might be like, oh my god, this is fucking perfect for what we need. So you're going up here. Right? Because, I mean, that doesn't mean that you're gonna usually enter like the industry at like a senior rate, right? But they might look at your work as being mid or senior worthy. Because then we get into the other thing where seniority, like a senior, isn't necessarily only good at making the best art, but they have a lot of experience and they can work really well in a team and they can mentor other people and they can help guide people and they can build like really cool documentation and they know how to anticipate like issues that are coming up in the pipeline. There's a whole bunch of things that you are going to learn as you make your way up from a junior to a senior as well. So you might enter a studio being like, oh, you're a high junior as your first job because you're really good, but you're also going to still have to learn like a whole bunch of the things. I have a little bit of a professional experience, so that helps. Well, we're not going to come to like a satisfactory outcome though, because if you look at this stuff, like there's so many things that come into like the whole thing where I will not be able to put like an accurate estimation on it. Because one thing that I'll say is that a lot of the work that you see on a day-to-day basis on ArtStation from people that might not even have professional industry experience is already better than the stuff that you see on a day-to-day basis in games right now. And that is just the truth. Like, there's a lot of times where I've had to talk to people and say like, hey, your work looks awesome, but we're working with different technical restrictions and we will not be able to do that at that rate, or you have to build your stuff in like a different way. For example, if you look at a massive open world game, not everything is going to be built unique, right? And then taking the mindset of a person who has only built like a bunch of props, now we need to transport that mindset into, now you're going to only build with trim sheets. That's a different mindset. Completely off track though. I think in this case, Daniel, let's have a look. So I think overall, your portfolio is in a really good state, right? So a little recap here. I still live by the motto, every prop is a hero prop. It should be treated as such, but the workflows to get there might be different. Let's see. Number one. So you got a good foundation, right? And then pay attention to like rest versus detail, right? Stuff that we talked about. And also play more with like, yeah, roughness variation, right? Make it more like a game. Number two is, have a think. What did we discuss? Been all over the place in this one. In our discussions. Number two is the breakdowns, right? The breakdowns can be improved. I think we talked about that for a little bit. It was a minor thing, but there's like small improvements that can be made. Can be made. Okay. Made. Yes, I can write. And then number three is, honestly, who are you? I mean, that's kind of a weird question, right? But what I mean by that is I want to see your portfolio grow, not towards like what the industry necessarily needs, but who you want to be within the industry, right? Which is a mistake that oftentimes people make when they just try to fill their portfolio by stuff that they think that are needed to get in. Where I think that you have like a solid foundation on like an environment and prop basis, where I think you should focus now on what ideally you should be doing like the entire time, right? You've given us hints to environment art, and that is the thing that you want to do. But environment art has a lot of different branches that you can grow into, right? I have the feeling that like storytelling and like the quote unquote level art side, where you just like in a very from a very triple A perspective, you take the assets that are available to you and you build locations and stories and all that kind of stuff with it, right? Obviously, this is a very triple A kind of view. In other smaller or mid-sized companies, you can have more input, or you will have more input in the whole process, right? But you are 100% right. You can only find that out by making more environments. I think you're 100% right. I think it's also something that I'm not expecting this from like anyone out there, right? To already figure that out when you have your portfolio ready to get into the industry, right? I feel that you as an artist and like me as an artist, like we're constantly exploring, we're constantly refining what we'd like, and that's only going to get clearer and clearer over time. If you can make that clear enough on your portfolio, that is good, right? But it doesn't need to be as detailed as we oftentimes make it out to be. Unfortunately, we're not going to have time for Sophie today, so we'll start with Sophie next time. But what I did wanted to show you is, I also want to try to save my voice a little bit as well. Let's see. Was that my entry portfolio? Have a look. So this was my portfolio as I got into the industry. Can I? Oh. No, I cannot. Damn it. Would have been cool. So this doesn't show like a lot of stuff when it comes to like actual taste, right? Because we got some sci-fi, we got some like industrial stuff, we got some natural stuff. But what it did show was that I was only interested in making environments, right? So that can already be a thing that people latch onto, and then can kind of help you in like your way into the industry, right? By the way, oh my god, I don't know. Like, I would not hold up like with this. Yeah, really cool portfolio. It was so many years ago. I know. Like this, I'm surprised. Like, but like the just amazing amount of like art that's online right now. But like students, right? I'm talking about students that are trying to get in, that are like blowing me out of the water when I was at that point. Obviously, times change, programs change, the information available right now is completely different, but yeah, still cool to look back at though. Yeah, I hope it was helpful, Daniel. I wish you the best of luck. I think, like you said, keep making more environments, keep experimenting, keep digging into like who you are as a person, what you like, and what you would want to see visualized, right? I think you've got a really good base, and I'm really curious to see what you're going to make in the future, man. It's going to be good. You will see more of me. Hell yes, and I'm excited to see that. It's going to be awesome. Okay. Do we have any more questions in the chat? Hell yeah, Danny. That's cool. I love this little supportive community that's going on. Love it. Let me see. Did I miss some questions? I don't think so, but PSA, call and visit your parents whenever you can. Time is short. Yes. I think that's very important. Very, very important. They were actually like chilling in like a lake in Annecy because it's like their yearly vacation. And we're kind of sad that we couldn't make it this year. So we have to make sure that we do that at the end of the year. Elena, woo! Hell yeah. Keep the support between all of you guys going as well. And for people, I know that some people have been like very supportive from each other's work in like our community as well, which is freaking awesome to see. So I just wanna give a shout out to I don't think a lot of these people are going to be here, but Dehne has been given like a bunch of like really good feedback. I think Adam has been really helpful with a lot of people as well. I've seen Ayahuana's name popping up a couple times as well. Antonio's in there being really supportive too. So yeah, keep it up, people. Keep posting your work, and also keep being supportive of each other as well. Can you send the link to the Discord by any chance? It's in the description? Question mark? I'm not sure what's in the description right now. But you can actually sign up to become a member by going to our website, which is beyondextent.com. I'm just sharing it on the screen. I forgot that. Yeah, making stylized and realistic is a bad idea. Yes. I think it's fine if you're still like trying to discover what you like, but as soon as you have tried the thing that you're interested in, try to double down on one thing, because you are not going to have the time to work on like two things at the same time. And yeah, it's just you gotta have to look at it from this way. Like, you gotta specialize in something. And I heard the term called like a T-shaped person, where like you have like a skill that you like really like excel in, and you can have like skills adjacent to that as well. But if you're trying to like get good at like two completely different things or two completely different art styles, you're basically gonna have to double the amount of time that you have to spend in each of them to get as good as a single thing, right? So that's why the comment comes from, don't focus on two things, just focus on like single thing and make that the best you can. And with that, a word from our sponsor, Skillshare. No, it's not. We're not sponsored. Are they still doing that? Oh shit! I should have. Damn it! Should have done Raid Shadow Legends. No, Adam. Oh, missed opportunity. Dang. I see. Many thanks. No worries. Best of luck in your journey as well. Pew pew pew. So nice to say. Pew pew pew. All right, people. Hello Fresh. Oh my god. We've oh wait, I'll bring this back to a previous topic. When I was talking about the things that I'm now doing on the side, right? One of the things is something cooking related. I like cooking, right? But like, me and my girlfriend, we have like this horrible time of just deciding what we want to eat. So what we did is, there's like a competitor to HelloFresh called Gusto or something like that. What we did is we just picked like all the recipes that looked nice, and I automated an email where it just sends us like a weekly menu based on the recipes that we fill into like Notion. It just sends us every Sunday, it sends us like 7 recipes with like all the ingredients, a link on how to cook it. My girlfriend orders all of it, and I just have to cook it on a day-by-day basis. So if you're talking about like things that you can do once you get a job into the industry, that's one of them. Not that fresh. I tried it and got bad chicken. Oh, that's the worst. That is the worst. By the way, get better soon, Timothy. Yeah, I feel like I'm already getting a bit better. Of course, I got sick on the Friday, you know? I was like, oh, please, not the weekend. But of course, it got me in the weekend. But I'm thinking I'm getting pretty good. I think, yeah, another good night's sleep should definitely help. With that being said, I'm going to do exactly that. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much for, yeah, sticking around, keeping the questions coming, keeping the conversation alive, and looking at those 3 beautiful portfolios that we looked at today. best of luck to them all. And yeah, with that said, if you want to become a member, check in the description down below. And thanks, Daniel. You are amazing too, man. Keep it up. And then yeah, with that said, have a nice evening, everybody. Bye-bye.